a major side effect of Anadrol is ripping your pec off the tendon, because I've seen that happen to guys more than once, man, getting so strong with it.
It's. I don't think people realize that rapid strength gain can be as much as a curse as it can be a bonus.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. With Dave Crosland, I'm Scott McNally, and all of our programming is brought to you by evalbloodanalysis.com. If you're in the UK and you're on cycle, you're going to need some labs, and you can get your labs done by Dave. Even if you're not on cycle, you should be checking your labs. Go to evalbloodanalysis.com, get your labs done by Dave in the UK. We are brought to you by Strom Sports Nutrition for those of you in the UK and those of you in the US as well. I have links below to both of the sites. Definitely check out Strom for great health stacks, especially if you're on cycle. TrueNutrition.com. Use our code THINK over there to get 10% off all your orders. I just got my order for creatine, and we got a bunch of the pea protein isolate for Victoria, my wife, and I already had a bunch of whey iso on hand for myself. Last but not least, supplementsource.ca for Canadians. They have great deals that change week to week. We are joining Dave on his vacation. Vacation with Dave.
Yeah, sunny France.
You look more laid back. Like Dave's not like all, like upset and like, I got to get all these things done. You look like you're having fun, man.
I don't push it. I'm not that far. I've been working most of today. I finished about, it's 4 o'clock here now, at 4:30. I finished work probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Okay, but just to be clear, are you grumpy on vacation? Are you that guy?
I'm just grumpy.
Yeah, but like you can't be grumpy on vacation in the south of France at your campground.
We had last couple of days have been a big push to get down to where we are. So yesterday, the reason I couldn't do the podcast yesterday was we ended up doing 6 hours of driving, which I know is not the end of the world, but in 30-degree heat, stuck in traffic and all that crap. By the time we got here, it was a bit late. So
yeah. But
we got set up last night and settled in, and so today's been a much more relaxed because we're not going anywhere till the 13th. We're parked up now for a week, so. Yeah,
nice.
Just chill a bit and sort some shit out.
Well, we couldn't get the show out last week because Dave was literally trying to get everything together to go, but we are back today. We haven't done an Anadrol profile in some time, so we're going to do that today. We've got all your listener questions from the previous episode, and if you guys want to take part in the next show, then definitely comment below, plus all your comments, likes, all that stuff. It helps to boost our programming in the algorithm, and if you're new here, let me encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell, because we have a variety of different podcasts. We got me and Dave. We got other shows with the coaching Q&A. We've got Ron and Dusty. We've got Science with Scott Stevenson. So we got a bunch of different stuff for you guys. But to kick it off, Dave, let's do a little conversation. We've had it before. It's no longer on the channel, though, about a little compound called Green Giants.
Ho, ho, ho.
Oxys.
Or Drawl.
A-bombs.
A-bombs. I like A-bombs. That's a good one. Yes.
50s.
Yeah. Okay. I never took those, but that's reference to a brand, I think.
Yeah, Anapolon was the brand name, and 50 was referring to the strength of the tablet, i.e. 50 milligrams.
I would love to do a poll and find out how popular is Anadrol now today. I feel like it's a pretty popular compound overall. I would put it next to D-ball as far as gain a lot, but it's a very different compound too. You know what I mean? You're not getting all that crazy estrogen conversion, though you can get a lot of water from it.
Well, I think it went through a depopularization because there was a lot of fear around its toxicity, and it gained a reputation for being the most toxic oral, which isn't actually true. It's medically prescribed, it's prescribed to children, it's prescribed to women at surprisingly high doses for quite extended periods of time. I mean, as I was saying off camera before we started, I know someone who's prescribed 100 milligrams of oxymetholone a day for anemia. It's a genetic situation, and he's been on that 18 months.
100 a day for 18 months. How often does he get his labs done? Because I know that there are situations where people take medications that are going to be toxic, and they
his labs are done quite regularly, but everything is they're happy with where it is. Obviously, there is some liver stress; it's processing the drug, but the stress isn't increasing. There isn't a downward trend. It's just it's working a bit harder than normal, and that's exactly where it's at. And I do think Oxy suffered with a little bit of a unnecessary bad reputation, but at the same time that in a way helps people be respectful of its use. So it's a bit of a catch-22 in it. You want to be honest about things, but at the same time you don't want people to get too blasé and casual about using any oral, because they all have potential. But it's a solid compound. It always has been and always will be. And I don't think really there's anything in the oral market that matches it for strength.
I just pulled up the Wikipedia because I fear deep dive research, Dave. I've got the deep dive research. I wanted to see when it was first invented, and I don't quite see that yet. I just see what it's been used for wasting diseases, anemia, to promote weight gain and muscle growth in certain situations. I mean, I like those situations. I think I need it medically for those purposes.
Yeah, I mean, it's being used, say, for muscle wastage disorders and things like that.
Yeah.
Half-life, if I remember rightly, is 9 hours. I think that's right.
Yeah. Check this out.
Go on.
Oxymetholone was first prescribed in 1959 and was introduced for medical use, but was discontinued in 1961, so a couple of years later, due to high lipid toxicity. Mostly used in the United States. In addition to its medical use, it's used to improve physique and performance, which we knew. It's considered to be a obviously controlled substance in many countries. And so non-medical use is generally illicit. So 1959, and at least I'm guessing that's the U.S. they're talking about, discontinued in 61. That doesn't make sense, because I remember the old school guys that used to get gear in the 80s would be getting it from the pharmacy.
It might be just stateside that you're reading, because I say it's still prescribed in the UK today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it medically it's usually dosed at somewhere around 1 to 2 milligrams per kilo. The strange thing now, you mentioned water, and oxymetholone is dihydrotestosterone based, so it's a DHT, so there's no estrogen.
Yeah,
but it's believed to engage with the ER directly, so it's believed to have an affinity to the estrogen receptor itself. We know it has a binding with the PR, the progesterone receptor, which is why it's classed technically as a proglastin. It's not true proglastin, but it acts like progesterone to some degree. However, its engagement with the PR is less of that than progesterone. So, whereas Oxy will engage with the PR and give a signal lesser progesterone, Tren will engage with the PR and give a signal greater than its equivalent progesterone. I think Tren's about 1.2, whereas Oxy is about 0.7, 0.8.
Okay.
But yeah, there is some thought process around it being capable of binding with the estrogen receptor, and there's been suggestion of running SERMs alongside as a way of potentially combating that.
Yeah. No, interestingly, I believe it was oxymetholone that Scott Stevenson talked about. There were some tests done where they would basically they would introduce it into the body with a dye, and that dye would then light up wherever it was active. Mm-hmm. And they did not find it to be traditionally attached to the androgen receptor the way that most injectables would be. Is that what they call the nongenomic effect?
Yeah.
Or whatever? Yeah. So that's from what he was saying, they're not quite sure then if it's not attaching to the androgen receptor the way we would expect it to. This non-genomic activity, we really don't have a solid understanding of that, of what it's really doing.
Yeah, there's a lot of From what I've seen, there's a lot of we think it might do this, we think it might do that, but there's not actually a lot of concrete. This is its method of action. This is how it interacts. This is what it does. But there's no denying. I mean, we've got decades of anecdotal evidence of how effective it is at increasing strength and fullness and pumps. You know, it's used pre-stage if you're lean enough to make you incredibly full. It's used as an aid in strength sports because it is so effective at boosting strength. I love the stuff. I always have done. I've always thought it was a fantastic drug. But yeah, you know, it's. But I do like oxys. It has its place. It's not an every cycle thing, but
yeah. I found my number one side effect from it was that it destroyed my appetite, and I think it's real common for that.
Yes, it is.
I could only use it for short periods of time. I find it to be a really good compound to use intermittently. I know, you know, like talking real world experience, you know, I do use it in coaching, but when I do, it's generally going to be intermittent through the week, maybe 3 times a week, taking pre-workout on specific training days. It used to be, you know, when I first started cycling, it would be an option to do like a kickstart. So you're doing 10 weeks of test SIP or whatever, test E, and the first 4 weeks or the first 6 weeks was Anadrol. Nowadays, I don't do that, and I don't think most people aren't doing kickstarts, but maybe the last 4 weeks, the last 6 weeks, and even if you're doing it intermittently, like 3 times a week, I think you can even stretch it out a little bit longer than that, you know, because you're not using it every day. Water retention doesn't get as high in an off season where you're really pushing food. And you can get a nice little boost pre-training. I'd say both in off-season and in contest prep. I even experimented with it one year, Dave, on leg day only through a contest prep.
No, there is almost a pre-workout effect with a lot of orals, and Oxy will fall into that very well. So, you know, taking it singularly for a performance boost more than a growth boost is definitely an option to help through sticking points, and particularly as you're sensitive to the appetite. And the appetite of all the orals, I'd say it's probably the most damaging to appetite. Yeah, it will.
It's right up there.
And I mean, I can eat. Well, I used to be able to eat through anything, but even I felt the impact of oxys. You know, it was like food was very laboured, but I mean, I spent years force feeding, so it wasn't really an issue, but I could feel it. I could feel how much more laboured my consumption had to be when I was running the oxys.
What were you dosing it at?
To be honest, I generally stuck at 50. I had a couple of points up to 100 just to play, but generally I did a little period of time, and I mean little as in a week or 2 max, where I did 100 oxy and 100 anavar pre-workout. Yeah, I mean it was, but I stopped because the pumps were that ridiculous. I couldn't move. I just couldn't fucking train.
I can imagine.
I've had a client start it. Quite funny we talk about this today because this wasn't planned. Like we ever plan anything. But I had a client started about 6-7 days ago, and he was like, his first 4 or 5 days, he says, I didn't really think anything was happening, and then all of a sudden he's messaged me today, and he's like, Jesus Christ, my strength is through the roof. He's benching 4 plates a side. He's never even been near that before in his life. He says,
really,
things feel heavy, but the reps keep coming. It's just, you know, weights I was doing for 6 reps, I'm doing for 10. He says he just can't believe it. It's absolutely blown him away. Now that's a very good response. It's not usually quite that dramatic, but it's a very effective drug, and can be used in quite a lot of different scenarios, like you said, in the single application just around a stumbling body part or something like that. Just 2 or 3 days pre-show if you're lean enough, stuff like that. So it's got more versatility than I think people actually give it credit for. I think,
if somebody wants to use it for a contest, because there can be situations. You know, here's my thought: is that if you're really hard and nasty looking, you're ready for the show. You can only get so hard before like getting grainier isn't going to help your cause. No. And at that point, maybe a little bit more fullness might be. Then, like, what do we need to get better? sometimes getting harder and grainier isn't going to get you better. Like, you're already going to be the leanest guy there is, the nastiest guy there is, but getting fuller could be to your benefit. That's where I'd consider it. I usually like to do an experiment where maybe a month out, if we're already in good shape, we'll add it in and we'll watch and we'll look at my guy every morning and see, okay, how does he look the next day, after 2 days, after 3 days, after 4 days? And usually we'll find a point where it's like, after 4 or 5 days, maybe it's a little much. So let's pull it back out. Maybe we'll try it again and just to test it out. And then maybe we'll use it conservatively into a show. That way we know, what's going to happen each day for the most part. Another side effect, because you mentioned the strength, I would say that a major side effect of Anadrol is ripping your pec off the tendon, because I've seen that happen to guys more than once, man, getting so strong with it.
It's. I don't think people realize that rapid strength gain can be as much as a curse as it can be a bonus, because you really have to be conscious about the fact that your tendons aren't gaining strength at the same rate your muscles are. Yeah. And if you're going into weights that you've never been there before, you are going into risky territory. So you do need to push the reps rather than think, right, well, I mean, I've always been a fan of sets of 6, right? I've always liked training on the heavier side, slightly less reps, but I've always done my reps very slow and controlled. So the actual time under load is still quite high.
Okay.
But mentally I get bored. That's my problem. If I'm under a weight for too long, I get bored. So if I'm doing sets of 12 and 15, by the time and I like to think my reps, I really like to mentally go through the motion with it, which sounds a bit hippified, I know, but it's like when I'm bench pressing, I'm visualizing the pec and how it moves and how it contracts and where it's pulling and where it's connected and all that sort of crap. So my training has always been quite thoughtful. Some guys just like to go in there and smash shit out of it. There's various ranges, and at the end of the day, it's what works for you. But it's very easy when the strengths aren't coming to just go more, and you've just got to hold back and go, no, let's stay at this weight but build the reps. Let's do a bit more volume just so I get the tendon strength up at the same time.
Well, what would be a good rule as far as what would you allow yourself? How much could you go up, per workout? Weight-wise?
There was a time when I only went up in 10s or 20s. As you go older, you learn that may not always be the best move. So I'd say if you're putting 5 kilo on a workout, that's probably not too bad if it's volumized throughout the workout. But if you're jumping up, literally going up, and I remember squatting the first time I used oxys, and I was literally going up nearly a plate a session. Inside a session, and I went from like 3-plate squats to like 4.5, 5-plate squats within a matter of a month.
God,
that was, I was lucky I didn't come away with an injury off the back of that, because that is rapid. So I think initially you're going to enjoy the strength gains, but if you find that those strength gains are continuing, then you're probably better going, right, okay, let's just pull back on the loading and start pushing the reps a bit more, but with the same weight. So, if I've gone up a plate aside on my squat, that's a 40 kilo jump. That's significant. Let's now build the reps up. So I'm doing this for 10 reps or 11 reps. And then I might look at another weight increase, rather than, it just gives the body time to strengthen those tendons, because the tendon integrity comes with duration, comes with exposure to load. It comes with volume. The other thing is how you train. For me, always been very controlled. So I've never got on with explosive reps. I've never been comfortable with them. I've never found them particularly enjoyable to do.
Yeah.
If you're an explosive trainer where you're explosing in the positive, then the risk for injury from the strength increase becomes much greater, because you're getting this sudden power loading. Where if you're a plodder like me who's slow and steady throughout the race, then the injury risk reduces somewhat, because you're not having this massive power load into the joint, into the inside.
Yeah, I've heard it's two weeks on average that our tendon strength is behind the muscle strength. Yeah. So that muscle gets fast or strong real fast, and you need a couple weeks to let those tendons catch up to it. So we've talked a little bit about it off season, a little bit about it in a contest scenario. I mean, definitely a really good strength compound. Is there any other aspect? I mean, it's available as an oral injectable. We've seen that. I've never personally used it. Had you used the oral injectable version?
I think I have. I don't think I noticed anything particularly different from it. But I think I have. I've got this vague recollection of there was a time when injectable orals were quite popular and there were a few floating around, and I'm sure I tried injectable oxys.
Yeah, all right.
Generally speaking, with the injectable versions, you find that they're actually that little bit more effective, generally. And most of that's down to the route of administration. Orals and oxys, no exception to this, are fat soluble. There is the potential for some of the compound to bind with non-dietary fat and pass through the system when you ingest them, where obviously if you inject them, you bypass all that. So you're going straight, absorbed into the bloodstream, straight to where you want it. You don't have to go through the stomach and digestion and absorption that way. So as a result, you get a bigger hit. I can't say I really noticed a big significant difference at the time, but fuck me, I mean, it's probably one of those times when I was throwing everything but the fucking kitchen sink in there and wouldn't have known anyway if I had done, so it's hard to say.
I don't, for anybody who's newer, I guess, that's thinking like, hey, I'm putting my first cycle together or first cycles, it's not the first thing that I would jump to.
No.
But if you were to respect it, and I mean, gosh, even though it comes in 50s generally, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to even running it at 25. If you were going to run it, for like a month straight or something.
I've seen and reduce it in 5s and 20s as well.
Have you? Okay.
It's one of those orals that's actually very well tolerated by females.
Yeah, I think it can be. Depends on the individual, right?
Well, there's always going to be individual tolerances, but in general, because it's got that progesterone action in the background, that is what normally creates some of the problems within a male, which in a female is really well tolerated. So like Deca's another compound that's actually quite female friendly in that sense. And I've seen some quite impressive stuff with females in doses as low as 5 milligrams.
Oh yeah, super low for females. I think 5 is absolutely plenty. All right, listen, I think we have a bunch of listener questions lined up here. If we didn't cover anything about Anadrol, and you guys wanted to know, then definitely just comment. We'd be happy to talk more about it. If you're in the market for protein powder, check out TrueNutrition.com. They literally have like every protein powder under the sun. I go with their cold filtered whey isolate or their Team Skip blend. I prefer the chocolate peanut butter cup, but there's a few flavors that I like. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Victoria, my wife, she gets the pea protein isolate. It's rare to find a pea isolate. Most of them are concentrate, so the isolate is super low in carbs. Regardless of your diet, they will have a protein powder for you, and you get to flavor it how you want and buy it by however pounds you want. So check them out, TrueNutrition.com. They're the first company that ever supported our podcasting, so we support them. You can support us by shopping with True Nutrition and using our code THINK. I feel like we are forgetting a couple little odds and ends, but we did cover mostly everything. So let me just jump straight into this stuff. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to comment with them as well. That's kind of what keeps the show running. You guys ask questions, we give you guys answers. So a guy who listened to the last episode, Scott is his name. Nice name. He says, viewer question, do you guys think that a taller guy needs a higher gear dose? I'm 6'2", 270 pounds, but I've always wondered if, due to me being over 6 feet, do I need to account for that fact with higher doses? Highest I've ever gone is 1 gram a test, but I like to run 800 milligrams of Deca and Anadrol, topic of the day compound, at 100 milligrams, etc. Considering the vast majority of bodybuilders are shorter, is there any truth to needing higher doses to fill out?
This is an interesting question, actually, and it's something I've pondered. Most medicines are body mass linked. So when we discussed Oxy just now, the medical prescription rate is based around milligram per kilo. But TRT isn't. we don't change TRT dosing because someone has a greater body mass.
Yeah.
And I know there's a few people within the industry that work on a milligram per kilo protocol when it comes to dosing. I know it's something Broderick does. And I'm not convinced it's necessary. I think there's so many different variables from a point of view of genetic sensitivity to the compounds to your own baseline genetics on protein absorption and you know, glycogen use and all this sort of stuff and insulin sensitivity and all the other factors that fall into driving muscular growth. And then on top of that, training efficiency and everything else from a stimulus point of view. I'm not so sure the way to dosing is that direct. I think there is a general that the more muscle mass you carry to an extent, and I think there's a limit to this, I think there's a cap point where beyond it just doesn't any more effective particularly. But I think there is definitely a link of the more muscle mass you carry, you are going to need more drugs to a point. But I think there's also a point where the stress side of things and the toxicity elements involved within usage become counterproductive to progress. So I don't think it's as simple as more, and more. I do think there is an element of muscular mass to dosing requirement, but I don't think there's an element of body mass to muscular requirement.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it, I've seen plenty of people of all heights and sizes on TRT that it doesn't seem like, oh, he's a taller guy, he's going to need an extra half cc to get in range.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like
and in fact,
the same doses work.
You'll get a skinny little guy that weighs $120 that needs more tests than a guy that's 280.
Yeah.
So I think probably one of the deciding factors is not body mass, but muscle mass.
Yeah.
So you could have a guy at 6'3" weighing 130 kilograms or whatever that is. What's that? 300 poundish.
Okay.
But actually, a guy at 5'6" at 100 kilograms carries more muscle per inch than the taller guy. And the taller guy's weight is more skeletal weight and connective tissue and you know, organs and the rest of it. And the actual muscle mass in the taller guy is less. So in those scenarios, I could see the smaller guy and the lighter guy actually requiring more anabolics than the taller, heavier guy because of where the weight is coming from a point of view of how much muscle mass proportional to how much skeletal frame and everything else.
Yeah, I would just say this, that, you know, it sounds like he knows the dosing that's worked well for him. He said, hey, I like using a gram a test, 800 deca or whatever. And if that's what use the least you can to get the results that you need and just continue doing that. And if you get down the road and it's like, hey, I need more, you know, I'll tell you this, Dave, there is one thing that a bigger guy will need, and that's going to be more food.
Oh, without doubt.
You know, bigger guy's going to need more protein than a smaller guy is. Bigger guy's going to probably need more carbs, than, not across the board, but overall,
V8
more mass means more food.
Yeah, you know, it's your basic running engine power requires more calories to maintain. You've got more structure. You've effectively got a bigger engine. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that engine's stronger. And if you're into cars, which some people are watchers they are, you know, the 2-liter Japanese engines producing 1,000 horsepower and fucking 6-liter V8's only producing 350. So, but the V8's going to be less fuel efficient because of the size of the capacity of the cylinders. So that's very similar to people. You know, a big guy is going to require more calories irrespective. But yeah, it's one I've never quite signed up to the milligram per kilo approach. I don't think it's accurate to be broad spectrum with that. Going back to this individual, 1.8 of injectables and 100 grams of orals, 100 milligrams of orals a day is no light call.
That's a good dose. Yeah, no.
You know, that's a decent whack. And I'd argue that pretty much anyone on the planet's going to grow off that.
Yeah, I would hope so, at least, All right. Let's see. I heard that there are hard to get products. Masteron is a big one, and Trend Hex is iffy as well. But Primo is still good from what all my sources tell me. But my source also said that India is picking up the slack and that the cost has gone up some, but the quality is good. Have you guys heard the same?
I know India has the capacity. Now, previously, the quality's been the issue coming out of India. It's been the fact that the quality's never quite been there or never been consistent.
Okay.
That may be because India couldn't compete with China on price. So in order to compete on price, they lowered the quality.
Yeah.
If they've now got an open market, i.e. price isn't an issue because there is no competition because China's not producing, then I could see, yes, if it's costing a little bit more, I could see the Indian quality improving. I think previously they've been priced out, so they had two choices, crap quality or nothing at all. Where I think now they've got an opportunity to produce quality, it's costing more, but people are paying that because they have no alternative. And it could establish India as a supplier. I mean, India is big in the medicinal trade side of things. A lot of so in the UK, the steroid supply chain is raw from China for injectables, but most support drugs, so Arimidex, Aromacin, Letrozole, Caba, that's all Indian. So all that sort of stuff's coming from India.
Yeah.
HCG, Indian, generally speaking. So there is, India has the ability to step in here. And as long as they produce the quality, they could very much change the market, actually.
Yeah, I could see that. All right. Billy says, question for you guys. Scott always talks about how much he loves Winstrol. I don't know if I have. I mean, I guess I've talked positively of it. I guess he's referring to the oral version. What do you guys both think of the injectable version, Winstrol suspension? So he's talking about the water-based. Is it worth it or not? If so, would it be good to go pre-contest, similar to some of the other orals that are made into injectables, like injectable D-ball, injectable Anadrol, etc.? Thanks in advance. Dave, I just had a client lay out his list of everything he had setting up his cycle, and he's like, I really want to try Winstrol, and he has 2 10-milliliter vials of Winstrol suspension. I said no. Let's not use that.
The issue with Winstrol suspension is water.
Yeah,
it's the sterility of the water. If you're gonna get an abscess from an injectable, it's usually water based that will cause it. If you can get the effectively non-estered version in an oil, then I'd be much more comfortable about using that. I would be very cautious about the water-based injectables. The nice thing about the water-based injectables is they don't have to be wasted because you can drink them. Now it's just like in an oral, but at least you can use it. But I would just, it's just that medium for carrying the drug in that's off-putting to me. I've never liked water-based. The vast majority, and you don't see a lot of water-based now, and we haven't done for a long time, but there was a time when there was quite a lot of white, milky, injectable liquids floating around in the world. And there's also quite a lot of people having problems post-injection. So there's a link there for a reason. Yeah, I mean, in principle, got no issue with the injectable version being used. I just don't like that medium of suspension, that's all for me.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this on other shows, and I guess I have talked positively about Winstrol lately because I do feel like it's been an underrated compound.
Worse than Oxys. He's like, you're obsessed with Winstrol. I'm obsessed with Oxy. That or you're talking about...
I'll tell you what, man. You get a nice, like, really grainy, dry look with Winstrol going into a contest. I would say that there is nothing quite like that. Before Trend became popular, it was like the go-to contest compound for hardening up.
I think that happened a lot, though. we've had changes in drug trends.
Yeah.
And old drugs that actually did a really good job have almost just been neglected because, yeah, but that's what they used to do. Yeah, but they used to do it for a fucking reason, because it works.
Yeah, but then compared to trend, and there's I think a reason why it maybe got, there was it cast a shadow on it,
Yeah, but you don't get divorced off Winstrol either.
Yeah, you might not. So here's a thought. Other issues with the injectable suspension version is if you do get, and you were going to use this stuff, you want to use some type of a micronized product. Otherwise, it's known these injectables like that or suspension, they can clog a larger gauge, even like the larger gauge needles. So sometimes you have to jam that in with a really, large gauge. And if I'm already helping somebody doing a contest prep, there's a real good chance that, especially if they're an advanced guy, the standard like go-to bread and butter of a contest prep is going to be test trend mast or test trend primo. Generally for me, it would be test trend mast. And then if we wanted to add something as we closed in, and though for me, those are staggered in as we get closer, if we wanted to use Winstrol, it would be in that last 4 weeks or under, but we're already doing 3 regularly administered injectables. I don't want to add another injection on top of that. The logistics of that, as you're getting close to a show, you've been taking shots for the last 16 weeks, by the time you get to the show, you're going to be a pincushion. And that in itself, I feel like, yeah, you're going to increase your risk of infections, regardless of it being, more likely to carry bacteria, since water is a great medium for growing bacteria compared to its oil-based counterparts, So,
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. All right. 13 weeks in to my first cycle. Let's see, what did he run here? He ran, or is running, test at 450 plus Primo, recently lowered from 400 to 200 due to low estrogen at 18 pg per ml. Mid-cycle labs are solid and all markers are in range. I originally planned to run this for 16 weeks, but I'm considering extending it to 20 because everything looks good. I was 320 pounds last year, and as of this morning, I am 199. I'm pushing it to 20 weeks reasonable for the safety and results standpoint, or does the risk to return at 42 years old shift with bloods, even with bloods looking good?
Bloods aren't the whole answer, but they do help, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable with the dosage in the first instance.
450 test plus 200 Primo.
Yeah, but it was 400. So it was on 850.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm uncomfortable
for a first cycle.
Yeah, I'm uncomfortable with the dose for a first cycle, and I'm uncomfortable with the duration for a first cycle. That's me personally. That doesn't mean it's wrong. Just for me, it's like, where do you go from here?
Yeah.
So personally, I would have run a shorter cycle with a much lower dose in. But he's done what he's done. Without knowing where his test levels are based on what he's dosing, it's hard to have any estimation of how good quality the drugs are, and is he getting what he's actually taking. Obviously the Primo,
there's that,
because he's got low estrogen, so it would suggest that the Primo was genuine at least. But there's no reason for me to say, no, I think you should come off, apart from just, I feel, for the first cycle, a 20-week cycle, with at least half of that being at 800 plus mg, and then the other half being at 600 plus mg, is excessive. But that's the only reason. He's not showing us anything where I'm thinking, oh, you need to come off because of X, Y, and Z, because it's not there. However, that's his interpretation of bloods being okay.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't mean any disrespect to the gentleman, but does he know what he's actually looking for? Does he know what things he needs to be looking at to see if there's problems developing? The bloods won't show the drug stress, but a lot of that can be factored in by how he feels. He says he feels really good. He says he feels really on point. So, there's a lot of positives in the sense that it doesn't seem to be having any adverse effects. And then am I just being boring and sort of, no, this is what you do and I wouldn't deviate that under any circumstances sort of thing because of I said so, which is a bit shit. Well, it is, isn't it? I mean, it's like I've always stuck very well. For me, along cycle 16, I know you tend to run a little bit longer with some people if everything is right. I've never liked them being much longer than that. I do tend to stick around the 10 to 14 mark and with a lot being around 12. And I don't like big first cycles because I just feel that if you've done 800 in your first cycle, then what's your second one going to be? And what's your third one going to be? And, where are you going with this?
Yeah, because you're generally going to want to go up next time. Add another compound, or whatever.
The problem is you're going to want to replicate or improve on the previous results.
Yeah.
And as we know, dosing increases in relation to results increases are not parallel. If you want a results increase, the dose increase is going to be significantly more than you expect. So there's loads of factors as to why I'd be wary about that. But on the surface of it, there doesn't seem to be any issues. So it's really down to him.
Yeah. Another consideration all throughout there to him is that he was 300 pounds and now he's 199. Congratulations, first of all, on the huge transit. That's major. You know what I mean? That said, how long were you 300 pounds for? I've seen it happen a number of times through bodybuilding where there was a guy that maybe spent a good chunk of his life very heavy, and then he got into shape, and he sees himself now as this healthy, fit, 200-pound guy. But that being heavy like that puts stress on your body, and that stress doesn't just go away. Like, kind of look at it that, you're already potentially somewhat compromised health-wise, and just consider that, moving forward, that it would be a shame, I guess. And I had to tell a guy that I work with recently, because he's done just that. He was like 318 pounds. And now he's like 186, and getting into great shape. But, now he's also into gear. And now he wants to grow as much muscle as possible. It would be a shame to have gotten into such great shape only to now compromise your health with gear by going too far into it. So just be as conservative as possible,
Yeah, there is an aspect of you're potentially not coming from a very healthy position.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
It's not probably going to have fully resolved itself just by the weight loss, i.e. there is an element of time required as well.
Yeah.
And you're not giving it that opportunity because what you've replaced from weight, the toxicity and stress was caused from weight is now being caused by drugs.
Rascal comments on the last one. It says, so with the shortages, would test in an AI be just as good as test in Primo?
Yes.
Ding, 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 ding. I mean, it's funny because we're coming back full circle to...
Maybe something we've been saying for a long time.
Yeah, you're getting... I mean, is an AI going to be great for your health? Is it great to add any ancillary? Listen, the fewer ancillaries you can take in your cycles, I think the better.
Okay, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Official scenario, so I don't know. We can't say that these doses are accurate.
Okay.
500 mega test.
Yep.
300 mega Primo.
Mm-hmm.
Or 500 mega test, 25 mega Aromacin twice a week. Which is the healthiest?
So 500 plus 300, 800 total milligrams versus 500 plus Aromacin at 25 twice a week. I would honestly say that assuming that your lab work was this, like your estrogen was the same.
Yeah,
in either case,
that's creating the same result for estrogen markers.
Then I would say what's healthier is the 500 test with the Aromacin.
That's my argument.
Yeah. And it's probably going to be less detrimental on your cholesterol too.
Well, aromacin is very cholesterol friendly. That's why I like it so much. Unlike Arimidex, which is not.
Yeah, somebody had a question related to that actually. Where was this one?
You've seen I
Let's see
got
if I can
sunburn.
find that.
Oh, got sunburn.
What's that?
Sunburn.
Oh, you sure did.
Fell asleep a couple of days ago.
I thought it might have been like your arm out the window or something.
No.
Where was that one?
Oh, you're talking about?
I don't know.
You would have pissed yourself. So my camper's left-hand drive, which works really well.
Yeah, right.
Because it's left-hand drive vehicles.
Oh wait, left-hand drive like in the U.S.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I pulled up. Now they have a lot of toll roads in France on the motorways. And when you get to the toll roads, there's tickets at car level and there's tickets at truck level.
Okay.
And with a camper, I'm at truck level.
Yeah.
So I turned up at this toll, and the truck level ticket dispenser wasn't working. It was only the car one.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to hang out of the window, literally, my feet up in the air, trying to reach this fucking ticket. I nearly fell out.
Shoshana's holding onto your feet.
Not far
Wife's
off,
holding onto your feet.
Not far off.
Yeah.
It must have been a right side.
That's funny. Dave, have you had any experience or knowing guys who have used 2-week cycles? I've used these for a good part of a decade, and I've always gained very well off of these. Think it was originally Bill Roberts who came up with it. Short acting cycles, 2 weeks on, and I practiced at least 3 to 4 months off fully. At 5'9", 100 kilograms with low body fat. Recovered from these very quickly. The idea was to be safe, and although gains weren't as much as big cycles, there was decent gains. I'm 41 years old now, and I've been off fully for 8 years, no issues, and have a family.
2 weeks
2
on,
weeks.
3 months off.
Yeah. I don't see it, Dave. I'm sorry. And I'm all for like being conservative.
Yeah, I think without a risk of possibly being slightly insulting, you may find that actually you'd have probably made similar or not far off similar progress natural.
I wonder, you know.
I do know someone, I won't say his name, pro, very good pro, very short careered pro, not for any reasons apart from his own personal choices.
Okay.
Who used to do 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off.
Huh.
But was technically
fast esters?
No, and that was the thing. He was never really technically off because by the time the city cleared, he may have had a week or a few days, and he was going back on again.
Yeah.
So that was quite deceptive. But he did that for very extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Never high dose, and he's one of the few. To be honest, I think in this situation he's an absolute genetic freak because he's been out of bodybuilding for quite a number of years, still carries a huge amount of muscle mass.
Yeah.
And he's very active in other things. But I'm just wondering if with this situation that, you know, there would have been very similar progress without the 2 week. Because if he was going to say 2 weeks on, 4 weeks off, or 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off, or that sort of rip, I could say, okay, yeah, I can see where. Because you're going to get post-injection elevation for a couple of weeks. You might have 1 week where you're a bit low and then you're back on. So it's a bit of a weird approach, but I could see progress being made. But 2 weeks on and then extended periods of time off, I mean, you may not have even fully shut yourself down in that period.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too, especially with like fast-acting compounds.
You're potentially not being fully suppressed. So, I mean, good that you've, you know, continued on in the sense of that you've got natural production and you've got family and everything else.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering,
hey, minus the like, you know, 3 months off. What do you think about this? 2 weeks of Anadrol on, and then let's say 4 weeks off.
I think if somebody is disciplined in the training department and they've got that nailed, that could actually be productive because you could quite comfortably create a nice little strength increase.
Yeah.
You wouldn't keep it all, but you'd probably keep a reasonable percentage that would carry over to some muscular gain over the following 4 weeks, then a strength boost again, and then some muscular gain over the next 4 weeks. There's going to come a point where you're going to start tapping out on your genetic potential.
Yeah. Do you remember back in the day, and I've heard the gorilla chemist, Brian Moscow, talk about this lately, more modern days of him liking these cycles. But do you remember back in the day, people talking about the programs where you did like 21 Sustanons in 21 days, and then you stopped?
Shakes.
Was that what it was?
The super high intensity cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a few people that like shakes. That's what prompted that 100 Anavar Oxy play.
Oh,
was messing around looking at shakes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a theory that obviously you got a massive response because of such high doses.
Yeah.
This theory that, and the idea behind it all was that you couldn't sustain high level continued growth because it was too fatiguing on the body and too demanding on every other surface, like, the amount of food you could get in and everything else. So what instead of doing like a 4 to 6 week super high intensity dosing, maximizing your gains, and then coming off. And some of the anecdotal evidence that people quote around this was that most people found that around week 6, 7, or 8, their progress did slow.
Yeah.
I think the progress slowing was actually other factors, and it wasn't particularly drug related. Things like just complacency coming into training and diet and everything else, and a lack of linear progression within training and diet that caused this stalemate to happen.
Well, I think too, man, you can only handle, like, you're going to like super saturate the muscle and just your body with glycogen and fluid. And that's really happening for that first 4, 6, possibly 7, 8 weeks. And then it's going to slow down. But then from there, you're going to see, if you see 1 pound per week, I guarantee you it's 1 clean pound. You know what I mean? If you're eating right.
See, when I was doing the big cycles, and they were quite long cycles as well.
Yeah.
One of them was quite linear. And I was seeing just as good progression towards the back end as I was towards the front end. But there were periods within that where things seemed to slow.
Yeah.
But all that did for me was like, okay, let's reinvigorate the training, let's readdress the diet, and it just made me step up in those areas, and then I started gaining again.
Okay.
So I never bought into the shit. I think it works, but I don't think it works for the reasons that were sort of behind it, if you know what I mean. I think it works just because you've got an exposure to massive levels of drugs. But I think...
Yeah, and that 21 sus, like, you have long acting undecanoate ester in there, so you're supposed to then continue to like build, you know what I'm saying? Like, your levels should be good for like what, how many weeks?
Yeah, well, the other thing is with
8 weeks,
21 sus, I mean, you're taking, you're on
almost 2 grams.
Yeah, a week. And plus the accumulative effect of that.
Yeah.
You're in big doses. And like you say, you've probably got 4, 5, 6 weeks post that where you're still working with elevated testosterone levels.
And that was the point, was that you, because it was sus and it's got the super long acting in it, that you get an instant effect from the probe, right? And then you get the long acting effect. I don't know, man. I don't feel like it's a smart idea.
I think a lot of the idea was that you push the drugs as high as you can for as long as you can, knowing that around anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks, you're going to get the point where the stress element from those drugs is going to peak. So you stop sort of just at that point. So the stress element then drops away as the dosing starts to drop away, and therefore you never get that toxicity buffer that kicks back against progress when you're exposed to high level of drugs. I think there's something in that, but I don't think shik is necessarily the way to go.
So I guess it's not, I mean, it is crazy, but we've heard of people doing a lot of really crazy stuff. That's in 21 days, you're getting 5,250 milligrams of gear. So it's a little bit more than 5 grams spread over 3 weeks.
Yeah, so it's just short 2 grams.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Here was that comment that guy made. Yeah, what's that?
I think it's about $16.50 a week or something like that.
All right. It says at the 1 hour mark, the guy said about TRT and joint pain. If you are reading this, you are on Aromacin. Oh, okay. So if you're on Aromacin, if so, stop that. I had an issue, and even a tiny dose of Aromacin blew my joints out every single time I had it. I'm now on Anadrol and feeling much better. Huh.
Yeah, I've had people sensitive to particular AIs, so either Adex or Aromacin, either way, and one has been much more palatable than the other one. So, and joint pain is one of the things that will come. It's not super common. Probably, maybe one person in a couple of hundred, if that. So, but yeah, I have seen it before.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it wasn't a question. Okay, couple more here. Might be a stupid question, but oh well. For context, 45 years old. I have run a few test-only cycles in the past. Hated the side effects. Probably cause of my diet or something, but I had horrible acne, major bloating. I cleaned up the diet, ran 500 tests and 300 EQ for 12 weeks. Absolutely loved it. I gained size and lost fat, felt amazing with no real sides. Blood work was good. I'm thinking of running a 16-week cycle of the same thing, but adding 300 milligrams of NPP for the first 8 weeks. Good idea or no? Also, I like daily injections. So would it be an issue with the NPP, or does it need to be a bigger dose at 3 times per week, like you've said in the past? Love the show, and thanks in advance.
NPP can be daily. That's not a problem.
Sure.
With the whole thing, I'd be tempted to just repeat the cycle you've done before. You made good progress of it. You had no problems with it. Why fix what isn't broken? If he's done well on that cycle, there's room to repeat. It doesn't necessarily have to add the MPP.
Yeah.
On the surface of it, it would sound like the test-only cycle he was having problems with estrogen and was struggling to manage that correctly, and that the EQs provided the estrogen management in the second cycle. I'm assuming it's because he's not said anything about any IA management or something else. MPP does add a different level here, and obviously there's going to be a little bit more estrogen, but there's also going to be the prolactin issue. So it is going to make management a little bit more complex. If he's not very au fait with that side of things, which it sounds like he's not, I'd be tempted to just stick with the test and EQ and run the same again, but for the extended period this time.
Yeah, I like the sound of that too, man. If he had a great cycle last time, and I would love to replicate a great cycle every time we go on. You know what I mean? Like if you can get away with not taking new risks. I mean, Dave, here's an example. I'm working with a guy who had literally started with me taking nothing. We started out with an Anavar only cycle for like 6 weeks just to see how he did with it. 25 milligrams, made great progress, started to feel his libido shutting down toward the end. So we did that 1 or 2 times, went to a test and mast. We did a low dose of both. And he's like, man, I really want to try EQ now. And he did really good on the test and mast, but he's like, I really want to try EQ. So I was like, listen, we're already doing so good. You made incredible progress. Let's just do what we did last time, right? He still wants to do the EQ. So we do the EQ, and lo and behold, I don't know what it is about him. He cannot tolerate the EQ. Some people, man, certain compounds just don't work for them. Yeah. And at least from this brand, we found that the EQ, and I know other people using this brand of EQ, they have no issues whatsoever. Overall, it's a very well tolerated brand, considered to be real clean. Guy's been around who makes it. His company's been around for like 20 years. So I trust that it's good product. but he takes a shot of EQ and his entire arm swells up. Takes a shot of EQ, entire glute swells up. So now we're backpedaling. It takes 4 weeks to figure all this out, and now we end up on test only, which is a good cycle. But if we just did what worked to begin with, we would have already been 6 weeks into a great cycle, not having to focus on the gear. Let that gear run in the background. Do the things that have worked well and continue to make the best progress you can. Focus on the training, focus on the diet. You know,
I mean, eventually you get to a point where, yes, you have to try something new, but I would wait till the point where you need to. You know what I mean? Where something isn't responding and you're forced into that rather than jump the gun all the time. But at the same time, I understand the excitement of wanting to try a new compound.
Yeah.
A compound that has a reputation for building muscle and everything else. So I get the drivers, I get the interest. But the old saying says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So, Dave, we appreciate you taking the time, man, to hang out with us on your vacation and bring us into your relaxed, chilled RV life, Dave, time.
That's okay.
And thank you to your wife for letting you take the time to hang out with us.
She's looking at me from behind. I'm not sure if it's a grumpy look or a cross look or a I'm too hot and melted look. I'm too hot and melted look. This is the sun worshipper that's dying here.
Why don't you turn that AC on for the poor lady, Dave?
We're going to do it when I finish with you.
That's the way the British people are. You guys, they don't run AC in their house. They don't have central air conditioning units. I went over there in the summer, and I thought I was back in the dark ages.
The thing is, there's been a few Americans online that have said more recently that even though the temperatures in the UK aren't high in comparison to the States, the heat just hits differently. It's the humidity, and there's what's his name? Dark hair. Used to be a ghost.
Oh, dark hair.
Long dark.
Used to be a ghost hunter.
Yeah, he comes over and does a lot of food stuff. Can't remember his name.
I don't know.
No, somebody will know him. But he was saying he's like, it's only like 25 degrees. He says, but I'm absolutely fucking melting, and I'm used to 100-degree heat back home. But there's just something about the UK humidity that destroys him.
Yeah, we have AC cranking all summer long in the house, in the car. If I was in an RV, I would have to have like an extra generator just to keep that running. We did get somebody saying, I hope that Dave continues doing Uncle Dave's Wisdom. And I said, guys, you got to leave us questions. And he said, I just like hearing him freeball it and share us, a little bit of, Uncle Dave's advice.
I haven't really got any advice. I will. This holiday is the accumulation of 2 months of extreme stress. Probably the most stressed I've been in a very long time.
Ooh, that's not good. Is it good stress though? Like you have good things going on, I know.
Yeah, just too much, too many projects, too many things to manage. Projects creating problems, the problems becoming or feeling like they're becoming unsurmountable. Yeah. And there's been a lot of problems, but we've kept his head down. And even though there's been times when I felt like throwing a rattle out of the pram and just screaming to the world, we've kept his head down. We've kept pushing hard, and we got a CQC through.
Good.
We got the camper ready for the holiday. The truck's back on the road. And as of yesterday, my wife got awarded her phlebotomy diploma, which is something she's been working on for 18 months.
Good for her.
So everything has basically come right. But it's come right because despite every inch of me wanting to go, no, fuck off and run away, kept my head down and just kept stepping forward with it. Just deal with the problem, deal with the next one. And it's literally like you fix one thing, and before you've even turned around, there's another one. And then another one. And then there was another one. And it just felt insurmountable for weeks and weeks on end. It wasn't because of it. And then you get to the point where you're that paranoid that you're going to have another problem before it's even fucking happened because you've got so used to everything being a problem. So we sit here now in this baking sunshine in what is actually a really beautiful spot and just be able to go, fuck me, we actually made it. Because I didn't think we were at a point. I really didn't think we were. We thought the holiday was going to have to be cancelled and all sorts.
So you're just hanging out in the RV for now. What else are you doing this week?
That's really it. We're gonna hire a car tomorrow or the day after and do some exploring locally to where we are.
Okay.
We're looking at a couple of properties. We'll see. And then we
It look like properties, like you're going to buy a house and move to France?
Something maybe.
You're just looking.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
Yeah?
we'll see.
Would the French let you live there?
Eventually.
I feel like the French wouldn't take kindly to you, Dave. Like,
They may not.
you're more American than you are French.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
very much
saying?
So, yeah.
You would fit in better over here.
My command of languages is very poor. Yeah, but you don't want me over there. You won't let me in.
All right, yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then we're going to take a slow sort of meander back up to the train and channel it back up.
Okay.
And then
wait, and do what? Shuttle it?
Yeah, there's a channel tunnel.
Oh, you go under the ocean to get home.
You load up on a train and go under the ocean.
That is incredible, man. How long does that train ride take under the ocean?
35 minutes. Yeah, 35 minutes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Huh.
You want to see how tight it is to get this thing on there.
I think you sent some video of a similar situation, like getting on a ferry before with it, and that's got to take some patience. Especially if you're used to driving on with your car with your wheel on the right side.
It's literally that. It's an inch either side of the wing mirrors. Oh,
jeez.
It's slow going.
Gee, I could only imagine like driving in construction or on those tight roads. I imagine France does not have the widest roads in general.
Generally you're not bad until you get into the villages, and then when you get into the villages, there's a lot of traffic calming in the villages, and it can be incredibly tight. But
yeah,
on the country roads, they're actually not too bad. In fact, the UK is probably worse because a lot of the country roads in the UK are super narrow.
Yeah.
But I mean, we were stuck behind a tractor the other day, and there was nothing legal about what he was. He was just everywhere, fucking bales everywhere, and stuck on the front of the tractor and on the roof and on the trail.
Oh God! To put in perspective what I learned about the country roads, Dave his old house was in a little cute village. It was absolutely adorable. You think you were in a movie. And Dave drove a sedan. And in order to leave his house, he literally, when he pulled out of his yard, there's walls either side on the road. He literally could only turn left, which would take you out of town, up through the hills and everything else. And he had to go all the way down there and come back around because he couldn't turn right out of his driveway because it was too tight. That's how small the roads are.
Yeah. And a lot of the country roads in the UK are narrow. Where, to be fair, I think I prefer the French road system. I think I do think it's better. The toll.
How's the food? Do you guys get to go out to eat anywhere there? Get anything good?
We've not. What France excels in is fresh bread. Oh, the bread's.
Oh yeah, I like bread.
But it doesn't bloat you. It doesn't. There's nothing like that. It's really, really nice. And like most campsites, you'll get a fresh bread delivery every day or every other day.
What? We don't get that we don't have a fresh bread delivery at our campsites in the U.S. Yeah. You're lucky to get a connection, a hookup for your water, to get water.
So, we have electric water and waste hooked up. There's a woman over the road that you can go buy fresh eggs off. So it's €1, which is a little bit more than $1 for 6 eggs.
I'll take. Oh, geez, they're like $1 an egg here.
And right out the chicken bum sort of job, And it's the food is good quality, but we haven't.
Did you buy any eggs?
Yeah, we've got eggs. Fridges are full. We've got plenty.
Nice. Oh, dude, that sounds fun, man. Well, I hope you guys have a really nice time. You deserve it. I hope you get to relax a little bit. And all right. Well, we appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out with us. Guys, we'll probably be back next week. Dave, when are you coming home? What's your plan?
We travel back on the 21st.
Okay.
And then I've got to go to Romana's.
Wait, the 21st?
Yeah.
So you're going to be gone for a while.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay. All right.
So we come back on the 21st. Then I've got to call in at Romana's and train her legs.
How's she doing?
She's good. Yeah, she's good. She's good. And then, so we'll be getting home on the 22nd.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll try to get another one if you have the time. And everybody's all right. Everybody's been loving the show, so they'll be happy to see you back. And guys, leave us questions for the next one. If you have any questions about France for Dave, anything you want to see him do while he's in France, leave us suggestions and comments. And go to evalbloodanalysis.com, because even though Dave's away, the business is still running. Somebody did have a topic, by the way, we'll try to get to it next time, about saying, hey, I got my labs done at eval. Great experience. I think you did have a question that we didn't get to today, but we could only get to so many of them, guys. So if we didn't get to your question, comment on this one. Ask your question again. We'll do our best to get it out next time. Of course, also go to truenutrition.com. Use our code THINKOVER there. Supplementsource.ca for Canadian Strom Sports Nutrition for those of you in the UK and in the US. Great health and performance stacks. And for another episode of the podcast, guys, we'll see you soon. Thanks, Dave.